Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're excited about tonight and the many things we have to share with you. And I'm going to start with my husband. We're going to let him lead us in a devotion on an attribute of God.
Have you ever thought about how God being eternal means to your faith? You probably haven't. Being eternal means he has always been there and he always will be around. Many times we think more about God's other attributes than we do his eternality. The modern world has been trying forever to create God's demise, whether he never existed or that he's dead. And the problem is we would not be able to discern God's voice because God's voice is what helps us to know that he is there, that we're able to sense his presence in our life. Now, there's two ways of hearing God. You've got the scripture, the Bible, God's logos, and then you got his spirit speaking through your spirit or conscience, which is the rhema. For God's eternality is the anchor of all the other attributes. Because if it does not exist, then his promises don't exist. And that is the basis of our faith. As I've shared before, the basis of, or the seed of a mustard seed, the faith of a mustard seed is that you believe two things to be true. God is who he says he is, and that he keeps his promises. And so if he does not exist, then his promises are null and void. Just as God has given you a child to help you understand his love and care for you, you as parents also have to help a child to understand God's eternality. Because when you take off to go somewhere and you leave your child for the first time, what happens? They cry. They don't know that you're going to be coming back. They miss you. They don't have the experience. But it is your experiences that helps the child to eventually know and understand that, hey, you will come back. And just as you come back, God will be there for them. That is part of the cycle in being a parent. When you have that child, you learn how much God loves you and he cares about you. Then you start learning more about God. But the child, you're teaching your child, it's your faith in that he's always going to be there that helps them to realize that he will always be there. It is the start of their belief in God's eternality. He always has been and always will be. And again, the things that you teach a child before they're 5, they generally want to hold on to for the rest of their life, even when there is doubt on its validity. When you're feeling overwhelmed by your circumstances, you can remember God's attributes and promises are a solid foundation because God is eternal.
Today, we're going to focus on classroom management. Preschool ministry, classroom management's do's and don'ts. What type of disciplinary are you? Are you the lion? You will attack. Are you the lamb? The children will attack you. Perhaps you're the experienced. You could teach this class. The newbie, you are learning and ready to learn more. Or maybe you're the unsure. You don't know what type of disciplinary you are, but that's why you're here. We want to help. We first want to look at the biblical basis. What does the Bible say about discipline? And really, it says a lot. One of the most famous verses, I guess, is Proverbs 23:13. That's the one where it tells you to withhold not discipline from your child. If you beat him with a rod, you're not going to kill him. Well, some people have taken that literally way too far. Actually, when you think of a rod, it's a shepherd's staff. Do you remember how David said, your rod and staff, they comfort me? And a shepherd would use that staff to tap the sheep back into line when they walked off the path. They also used the staff to rescue the sheep when they were in danger. So the staff was a very needed instrument. On top of that, Those little sheep, they had to be watched constantly, didn't they? Well, that's the kind of discipline you can think about with children. When we see them getting off the path, we need to gently guide them back in the right direction. They constantly need our eyes looking at them, watching to make sure they're not straying in the wrong path. The next verse is 1 Corinthians 14:33 and 40. And I chose this verse because it says, do everything decently and in order. And I think of Jesus feeding the 5,000, how he got them all to sit down in groups of 50, and then he had his 12 disciples delivering the bread. And at the end, he had his disciples picking up the bread. He did things in order. But we need to also have orderly classrooms with the children. Hebrews 5:6, I say, how do you spell love? And this is where the Bible talks about whom the Lord loves, he chastens, just like father would a son. So love means discipline. Have you ever been in an undisciplined classroom and the children are going crazy? Or have you ever seen an undisciplined child? They haven't had the love that they need, or the teacher doesn't care for a class like she should. So taking time to discipline and correct children spells love. Isaiah 28:10. This is one of my favorite verses. It talks about how we teach little ones, and it's line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little. Isaiah was actually rebuking the Israelites that we were going to have to go back and teach you just like children. But this is how children are taught. We have to correct them here and correct them there, remind them and remind them, here a little and there a little. Don't get weary. This is just part of teaching little ones or raising them as a parent. And then Proverb 22:6 reminds us of the benefits. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he won't depart from it. There's a benefit to correcting the children, providing proper discipline, pointing them in the right direction. Even though you might have the child for just 30 minutes a week, that time could be very beneficial in that child's life. You don't know the godly example you are to that child, how they may remember that the rest of their life and want to follow your example. There's common preschool behavior that we need to understand when we're teaching preschool children. And one is they need guidance. So often I've heard people say that child is so bad. And actually, they probably need someone to show them a better way. We need to guide them when they pout or throw a fit. Let's show them how they can behave properly. What do they need to do? Are they fighting over sharing a toy? We can teach them to say, may I please play with that next? And we can teach them to wait for their turn. We need to use consistency. And sometimes I'm a little weak in this area because I forget. But if we have a rule that says you can't speak till you raise your hand, we need to be consistent and enforce that rule. And I'm really guilty about not enforcing that. And I really try hard to be consistent in upholding the rules that we have in the classroom. We need to include boundaries for children. This helps them to feel safe. We need to, through having rules, this gives them boundaries, what they can do or can't do. I don't know if you've seen a child, if you let them in a room with no rules, they'll be jumping off the chairs, jumping off the table, scribbling on the walls. They need some boundaries. We need to develop structure in our classroom. This once again goes to those rules, but children also appreciate this somewhat the order and consistency of the class. Like we have a theme song, we have a Bible verse, we have a lesson, we have a game. They really look forward to that structure. We need to encourage with reminders. Children need to be reminded over and over again. That's that line upon line and precept upon precept. Remind them of the up rules. Remind them that, like I have my little Charlie, that Charlie's watching. He has stickers at the end. Remind them to sit down, crisscross. I like to say crisscross applesauce. God is boss. Keep your hands to yourself. We also need to meet their physical needs. Of course, we want to make sure that a child is well rested. They're going to be fussy and whiny if they are not rested well. They also need the food to eat, or they'll be complaining of hunger or thirst. We need to make sure they've gone to the restroom. And I'm really thankful when I go into these preschools that the teachers have met all these needs so the child is ready. They're not complaining about being hungry or tired, and they've gone to the restroom. Once their physical needs are met, then we're able to meet their spiritual needs. Evaluate the safety issues. Of course, you want to be in a classroom where there's plugs that are covered, there's not cords hanging around. They're in a safe place where you can teach them and they can learn. So common preschool behavior, they need guidance. Guide me. With gentle guidance, that's that shepherd's rod. When you see them get off the path, just gently lead them right back on the path. Of course, the preschool teacher also has needs. A greatest need is prayer. If we can start with prayer, that goes a long way. The P will stand for preschool friendly curriculum. And that's what we're trying to do, is provide you with some great curriculum that you could use, which is engaging and dynamic, interactive, so that children will be able to learn on their level. The preschool teacher also needs to rest and have her physical needs met, or his, because children are so demanding. We do not want to go in tired and grouchy or hungry. So let's help get the rest we need, which might be sometimes challenging when we're dealing with allergies and restless leg syndrome like I do. But by God's grace, He'll help us through. The preschool teacher also needs assistance. When we go into our preschool program, I don't go by myself. I'm thankful I have Miss Trudy, and she really is a wonderful assistant for me. She can hold visuals, she can hold the Bible, she can help me with songs, help me with games, she can help me with the prayer. She can also help oversee the class while I'm teaching. So having an assistant is tremendous, and I just really recommend that you don't go by yourself. It's also very important to have an orderly teaching environment. I like to have all my material ready and stacked the best I can. Now, when you're teaching 1, 2s, and 3s, you have to make sure it's not where their little hands can reach it, or it attracts them so much they're getting up wanting to touch your things. A lot of times I have a bag and I have to pull things out of my bag while I'm teaching with a preschool if there's not a table for me to lay them on. But have things in order, that will help the children. It's also helpful not to have a really busy, overstimulating classroom. I have a preschool teacher, and when she comes into our Sunday school classroom, she always says, "This is too overstimulating. This is too overstimulating." And I agree with her, but I was not the one that put up the decorations. The preschool teacher also needs encouragement. It can get weary out there teaching alone. So let the church know what you're doing, what your needs are, share what you're doing. And I tell you, one area of encouragement that is really the best one of all, those little hugs from the preschool. It is such a blessing to go into the classroom. Maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm weary, but their little smiles and their little hugs, that's a bucket full of encouragement. The preschool teacher also needs to have their regular quiet time to meet their own spiritual needs. We can't go out and teach the Bible and minister to children in the flesh. We have to be connected with the Spirit. We have to spend time in prayer and get refreshed ourselves so that out of our bellies will flow rivers of living water. Now, this is some common preschool behavior. This is not bad behavior. This is preschool behavior. One thing is they learn through their five senses. And I sort of think it's funny when I go into a classroom and the teacher's saying, don't touch, sit down, leave that alone. What they're really doing is stifling their ability to learn because preschool, they learn by touching. They learn through all of their five senses and they are active and alive. Then also preschoolers are emotional. This is very important to realize about them. If you grab a toy from them, you're going to have a breakdown right there in the classroom. And if you give one child a sticker and not all of them the sticker, you're going to have a breakdown. So we have to be very sensitive because they're very emotional. They're just learning how to share, how to interact with others. So we can take all of this into consideration when we walk into a preschool classroom. Active, yes, they are very active. I think they say the attention span is like 1 minute per age. So that's why our lessons involve lots of activity and engaging where they can stand up, they can sing, they can repeat back. I love to use all five senses if possible. We get the smell in a lot of times with scented stickers where they can smell them. Tasting, if you're able to, you can bring a little snack. I'm not always able to do the taste, but we can pretend like we're tasting. They appreciate routines. Once again, that's this line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little. I was thinking of the class I just recently taught at Gethsemane, and I have the routine when I'm teaching to do a little Bible finger play. I open the Bible, and what do I see? Words about Jesus. He loves you and me. Well, this past Friday, I left it out. I didn't do the finger play. And at the very end of the class, a little preschool child said, "You forgot the Bible." And I was like, I taught the Bible. I did teach the verse, but I forgot the finger play. They enjoyed the routines and look forward to them. We have to remember that they're non-competitive. So we don't play competitive games with preschools. And even some young child, I have this little girl, Iris, she still cannot deal with competitive games, even though I think she's first or second grade now. The games we play should involve all of them. Everyone stand up, everyone sit down, everyone participate. Because they haven't learned how to share, a competitive game would have them all crying on you. So you don't just want to leave those out. We look to suggest games that are non-competitive in our curriculum for you. Yes, they enjoy play, but not sharing. If I do the gospel fuzzies, if I let one child have the gospel fuzzy, I really need to let all the child have the gospel fuzzy because they don't understand why does she get to do it and I don't. Now, a teacher in a classroom can spend time guiding and teaching the child to take turns, but when we just have this 30-minute window of time, we have to take in consideration that if I allow one child to do something and I'm not able to allow the others, I probably need to eliminate that activity. Sometimes we have these large classes and you just have to let all the children participate. At Gethsemane, where I teach a chapel service, now these children have learned to take turns and they're able to do that. But many situations, they're not able to do that yet. Regular guidance is needed. That goes back to the consistency. It goes back to the line upon line, precept upon precept. It goes back to reminding them of the up rules. and also being an example. One thing I do like to do is when I see a child following the up rules is to compliment them. Oh, look, so and so has their legs crossed and eyes on teacher. They're following the up rules. And that encourages the other children to follow along. So a learner, a preschool child is learning all of these things. They're so active and alive. And the wonderful privilege of that is that you get to plant seeds in those lives that will bear fruit for eternity. When we're thinking about preschool outreach ministry, there's some things that we need to share with the preschool so we're all on the same page. One thing is that you do need to share your expectations with the teacher, and I do want to put together some paperwork so that we could just provide that paperwork to the school so that they'll know what's expected, what part you're going to play, what part you need the teacher and the preschool to play, so they know your expectations up front. Now, here in the United States, in the preschools, in Louisiana, the classroom teacher has to stay in the classroom. They can't leave the classroom when a guest is present. And I really love that rule a lot. That classroom teacher is still in charge of the classroom, and they are the ones that can control the children, not you. While you can remind them of the up rules and things like that, if there's a real discipline problem, the teacher needs to control that. And I have a couple of examples from just this past week. One of them was so funny. Little Bryce, he's just 1 year old, and his mama is a teacher. So she wanted him to have a gospel fuzzy. Well, when it was time to give back the gospel fuzzy, guess what? Bryce did not want to give back the gospel fuzzy. And it was becoming a little power struggle between mom and teacher. So I had some ball activities. I had several balls, enough for each child that I was going to play. So I offered him a ball, and then he was able to give back his gospel fuzzy. But at the end of class, you won't believe it. He grabbed my Bible and ran away with it. Well, I allowed the teacher to handle that and get the Bible back to me. The other situation was Irish. That's the little girl that she's just a little handful, and she's an older child, but she decided she didn't want to give up the gospel fuzzy too, even though she's a second grader, and all of the children had a gospel fuzzy. All of them gave them back, but this child did not want to give it back and started running around the room. Well, thank the Lord, the teacher was there, and she said, "Do you want me to tell your mother?" That's all it took, and Iris gave back the gospel fuzzy. The teacher knew how to handle Iris. Now, first, one of my assistants was wanting to get in a power struggle with her, but when she seen the determination of Iris that she was not giving up that gospel glove, she knew not to get in a power struggle and allow the teacher to handle it. Always be consistent at the preschool. If you're saying that you're going to come up at 10 o'clock, show up at 10 o'clock. If you say that the class is going to be 15 minutes of their time, keep it to 15 minutes of the time. If it's 30 minutes, keep it to 30 minutes. You need to be consistent so that you're respected, and they'll look forward to your coming and know when to expect you. They have a schedule to follow, and so we need to respect them and their time. Remind of your class rules each time. So this is where teaching the children, each time you go into the classroom and teach them, remind them of what we use is the up rules. And you'll see that demonstrated in our demonstration later on. Also, respect the established rules that are already in place. Different preschools have different orders of handling discipline. We were at one preschool, and they just redirect. Their type of discipline is redirection. And it's a little bit funny that this preschool that uses this discipline needs about 4 teachers in the one classroom because I don't think it's working very well. The children, anyway, that's another topic for another day. But different preschools have different forms of discipline, and we just respect what their form of discipline is, and we work around that. We have some expectations, and we need to first be a friend with the teacher in the classroom because they have expectations too. One of our expectations is that we find an appropriate location to teach the children. Sometimes that works well for you, other times it doesn't. There's one classroom, we are still trying to find an appropriate location. Last Friday, or it's actually Thursday, they put us in the path where another class of children walk through and go to the bathroom. That's where we had to teach. So it's not the best best location to teach. We were able to work around it though. One time they wanted to pack all of the children in one classroom, the ones, the twos, and the threes all in one classroom and smush them in a rug all together. Well, that was a nightmare. The 1-year-olds were crying. And then the teachers were constantly telling the children, don't touch, because they could not keep their hands to themselves. We don't want to teach all of the children packed into a little area. So finding that appropriate location is very important. I remember teaching at Jolly Kids last year, there was no appropriate location. We had to teach the children in the lobby, but thank the Lord they have their own classroom. And in spite of those challenges, God still made a way and we were still able to teach. Thank the Lord that the Lord designed children where they're able to many times overlook all the distractions around them and focus in on the lesson. Like I mentioned already before, we recognize and work within their schedule. We're still trying to find the right timing at Jolly Kids. We tried the afternoon thinking maybe that would work. And now we're going back to morning, but there's one class and it just seems we can't find the right timing. That's when you need to turn to prayer and ask others to pray as well. Make sure that you let them know when you're not going to be there. They're expecting you, and you don't want to just not show up. And then, like I've mentioned before, you want to be on time. Excellent communication is helpful between you and the teacher. Do all you can to become her friend. Offer help when you see her struggling. Ask her prayer needs. One rule that really needs to be enforced is to ask the teachers to not have loud talking when you're teaching the children. They tend to want to get off with another teacher and chit chat away. But if you can let them know how distracting that is for you, they'll respect that. But do it in a kind and gentle way. Let the teacher know that you depend on their presence to be there in the classroom and how helpful it is so that you can focus on teaching the Bible lesson for that day and thank them for their presence. And here's just a few simple tips that I've learned along the way. Sticker incentives. Those little preschool children love a sticker. That's all it takes. So I use my little Charlie man, and at the end, we give out the stickers. And if we forget them, the children definitely remind us. There are 2 important words that I've learned are very, very helpful in teaching children of all ages. And Phil says this even works with husbands. One is, I need you to do this, please. So if you need a child to sit down, just say, I need you to sit down, please. Instead of being bossy, that word need makes them feel like they're helping you. And it's in children to want to please and to want to help. So using the word need is great. The other word that is so wonderful is the word okay. I need you to sit right here, okay? taking using the word okay takes the bossiness and command, and it gives a child a little bit of freedom to feel like they have a choice in their situation, which they really don't. But it's showing them respect that they're an individual, and it matters to you what matters to them. So those are two very helpful words. Keep the class moving. You don't want any dead time. So make sure that your lessons are prepared. You know what you're doing next, and the class keeps moving. This is where an assistant can come in handy. If you're busy looking for the next visual, they could sing a song, or they could remind them of the Bible verse. Keep that class moving. Provide variety. And we do that through songs, through games, through finger play, visuals, changing up songs from time to time, changing the story from month to month. Then when they get talking, you can always remind them to zip their lips, or I love catch a bubble. They love to catch a bubble, and it really helps to get the children quiet all at once. And then some extra attention getters that are always helpful is if you see them distracted in every direction, sing a song. That always helps bring the class back together. Or another one that teachers use, and it's really handy, and I've had to use it a lot lately. If you can hear my voice, clap your hand once. If you can hear my voice, clap your hands twice. That just works. Teachers have trained the children this, so they're sort of trained in that technique, and it's so much better than raising your voice or getting frustrated. There is one excellent book, and I just really, she's got a whole course, and I highly recommend this book, Conscious Discipline, Building Resilient Classrooms. She's full of great ideas, great discipline tricks, and she's full of love too. She likes to have what she calls, what does she call that? Oh, I can't think of the word right now. Rituals. She'll have greeting rituals, uh, bedtime rituals, nap time rituals, see you later rituals. She suggests lots of rituals that you could do for bonding with kids, making them feel like they belong. But look her up on the internet because she has lots and lots of videos out there, lots of wonderful teaching tips. The other great teacher is this one right here, Gay Grulin. This book right here is on the importance of play, using play as a teaching tool with children. They really do learn through play. And another one that she has is Focused Learning. And this is a planning book, how to plan your class time and schedules with the children. These are some great resources to broaden your understanding of classroom discipline. So what kind of teacher are you? Are you the lion? Are you the lamb? Maybe you're the otter. You just want to have fun. Well, there's one thing we all need, and that is to do everything in love. 1 Corinthians 16:14 says, "In all you do, do it in love." Let the little ones participate, help, and let them know Jesus. Matthew 18:14 says, "It's not the will of your Father in heaven that one of these little ones should perish." Overlook the small stuff. Many times that might bug you, but if it's not bugging the classroom, overlook it. Very gently and lovingly correct. You can gently guide those sheep with your little gentle rod of correction, and engage with the children as often as possible. Let them know they're loved. Let them know you care about them. If possible, call them by their name. I'm not very good at that, and name tags don't very well work with ones and twos and threes. But if possible, call them by their name. I let the teacher help me with that, and then I try to pray for them name by name. These are some things that will help you in classroom discipline. And perhaps you have some tips too. I would love to hear them.